IP to the big three is what we've been playing with. I keep looking at ways to sort of remove the money from my brain. It's funny to me. I find this funny. It's funny.
I'll be the judge of that.
Well, not funny like ha-ha.
Okay. Like a clown?
No, not funny like a clown. Funny like interesting. You know what I mean?
Quirky.
Right.
Strange.
It's interesting how many people, because I've gotten this email, I've gotten this text, I've been in this conversation out of the building from Warrior fans all over the city. No way in hell I'm paying Klay $25 a year. I pay him $20. I'm like, you don't need to pay him anything.
Right.
Why does that matter to you so much? And I know the number one answer. The answer is, well, that would prevent him from doing something else.
Cost prohibitive.
But what if it doesn't? You don't know what it would or would not prevent them from doing. $5 million total on next year's number is not going to make or break the Warriors from being the 2 seed versus the 11 seed. It's not.
It might.
It's not.
It might if it keeps them from going above the luxury tax and getting another player.
Bobby said to us, if you're signing Klay Thompson back, you are filling in the rest of the roster with very low level, mostly minimum guys.
Right.
That's true whether he gets 25 or 20. That's just true, period. So if that's the case, I do wonder why are so many of you seemingly playing mock GM and doing the whole, I'd give him this, but I wouldn't give him that. It is largely, for me, it's the same smell. It's all the same thing. That's why I asked Bobby Marks, if they re-sign Klay, can they also afford to go on the open market and make a trade for a big-time player? And he firmly stated no. No, they cannot. Okay, fine. So now I know. It's either to Klay or not to Klay.
Right.
That's the question. It's not micromanaging how many dollars it is. It's either just a yes or a no. 20, 25, 26, 24, whatever. Not my money. You either are committing to him and filling in with other little people, or you're not committing to him and you're going to then have the ability for some maneuverability to totally change the roster.
Right. And if you don't commit to him and you take that salary slot and you spend it on other players, I wonder if you can get a free agent to come in here for whatever that would be. And it's still the same amount of money, 20 or 25 or whatever the number is, to keep you below the tax threshold, unless Joe Lacob decides after all of his ruminations and he takes time away and he says, you know what? I am doing $400 million again. Let's bring Klay back and let's take Chris Paul's salary slot and let's bring in another $30 million a year guy and let's just go way over the tax again. I don't see that happening.
Doubtful. No, I think
for a 10 seed.
Yeah, the willingness to. Well, but that was this year. That's over.
Yeah,
you got to project. You got to project forward. And so, if there's a big move, it's a trade. It's not free agency. We'll see who comes available. And I do think that Joe Lacob could be wooed into saying yes to some things that, as of now, we're assuming he won't. That's on the table, if you ask me. Chris in San Jose with Willard and Dibs. Heidi Watney coming up in about 20 minutes. Apple TV Plus, Giants, Diamondbacks, Friday night. Hey, Chris, what's up?
What's going on, gentlemen? Happy Friday. Willard, Dibbers. Before, I know you guys like to use your doctorate in playing devil's advocate occasionally, but if you'll give me a second, just rock with me here.
Okay.
We're talking about Klay. I mean, you could talk about Wiggins, Draymond, but while we're on the topic of Klay, I'll just stick to that. It's a nuanced situation, in my opinion, but it's also a very clear situation. To me, the clear situation is that if you're going to bring Klay back right off into the sunset with the big three, you're simply not going to do anything as a team. Whether, like you said, it's not our money, 2 for 40, 2 for 48, whatever it is. Either way, if he's a guy who you're counting on to be your number 2 or number 3 scorer in today's NBA while not playing defense, you're going to struggle, especially in the Western Conference. I can take it a little further. His ego, even though he went to the bench, that first game he went to the bench, he had about 6 shots in 3 minutes. So he's never going to get rid of that chip on his shoulder. And regardless of what you pay him, he's not going to be able to slide into that role and be an effective 2 or 3 anymore if the goal is to compete for a title. And you want to talk about other teams. I've heard people throw around the Mavericks a lot. They're paying, I think, Tim Hardaway $16 million a year. He's giving them 15 points a game with better defense than Klay plays at times, even though it's not great. So you think another team who is on the edge of contention is going to give him 2 for $48 million? I don't think so. I mean, unless a team is desperate or, like in Orlando, who's trying to maybe win a playoff series.
That's the deal, though, Chris. Yeah, there are desperate teams out there. And I'll just defer to what Bobby Marks says and every other NBA voice, by the way, that I hear, that these offers apparently are being prepared. Everyone expects it. You could be right. Maybe they won't come. Maybe we'll be surprised. But I do think those offers are going to be out there. The rest of what you have to say, Chris, I largely agree with most of what you're saying. And I know that Klay Thompson is in a completely, thank you so much, Chris, in a completely different stratosphere when it comes to the emotional connection with the organization.
Right.
I get that. But I think it's important to remember the Warriors are very, very willing, this front office, this ownership group, they are willing to be cutthroat. They absolutely are. Like, do you know who at that time, again, not in the same stratosphere as Klay because that's a career thing, but in the moment, the Warriors were recent champions, and there were players on the team who fans loved. Their names were Harrison Barnes and Andrew Bogut, and they were champions. And they had also just been a part of a 73-win basketball team. I'm telling you, that was the deal. Those were our guys. And the Warriors kicked them in the rear end as fast as they could. A bunch of them got on a plane together and flew across the country to woo in their replacement. And they did. I think that's important to remember. The Warriors, like Mike Dunleavy said yesterday, there's never a wrong time to make the right decision. I totally believe that they are willing to let Klay walk if these conversations don't go right.
Yes, but that's not the same as, making a hard trade and trying to upgrade your roster with Kevin Durant. This would be, I think, a cost-cutting move. It would be a situation where Klay is going to get more on the open market than they're willing to pay. And it comes down to me to a little bit of a pay the piper conversation because if you don't want to be over the tax anymore, if you don't want to be a repeater, you don't want to be in that second apron, maybe you're okay being in the first apron, but you still want to have a team that's somewhat competitive, then hard choices must be made. And that's partly why you're going to make a decision on Kevon Looney, and we don't talk a lot about that, but it seems like they're not going to have Kevon around anymore. His guarantee is only partial. It's $3 million, so Kevon is probably going to be one of those hard decisions, and a guy you love, a 3-time champ, and you're just going to probably end up cutting him June 30th and give him $3 million guaranteed and let him go out there and go where he goes.
I think the Klay thing is comparable. I really, really do. I know that he is right there alongside Steph and Dre with the emotional connect. But if people think about what I just said and go, but that was for Durant, this is what I'm talking about. Play this out in your head. Just imagine, because these things can happen. And we've already talked about it a little bit. I've heard it from multiple places that there's something going on with the Timberwolves and Karl Anthony Towns. There just is. And if they don't have a great playoff run in them, then Minnesota is going to be taking and making calls. Doesn't mean he's going to be traded. I don't know. But it's possible. So just let's say the Warriors have the package that Minnesota wants. They're able to put this together. They're able to acquire Karl Anthony Towns. That is on the table. Minnesota loses 2 weeks from now to the Suns, and those conversations all happen in the month of May. And the Warriors have sort of like, okay, here's the basis for what we'll do. So the Warriors know that by the time the month of June rolls around. Okay. You're willing to let Klay walk? You get Karl Anthony Towns in another trade, but it means that you cannot afford to even offer Klay 20 or 25 or whatever.
Of course you're willing to.
Are you letting him walk?
Of course.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I think you're letting him walk anyway, unless he's willing to.
Well, he might be doing the walking as it currently stands.
And if Bobby Marks is right, who joined us yesterday from ESPN, if he's getting 25 to 30, it's a no.
You know, what I'm talking about, like we're already at a spot where I don't know what Klay's going to demand, but at the same time, the Warriors could get. There are things that could happen out there that lead to the Warriors not even making him an offer at all.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, and I think that they would do it if they felt like there was a home run out there, unlikely though it may be. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Upgrade your savings dividend, open a First NorCal First Class Money Market today. Mike and Orinda. Hey, Mike, what's up? What you doing?
Hey, guys. Running errands, trying to pay my taxes late. So, but I'm here listening to you guys instead of getting work done.
Perfect. I heard running. You know what? My lovely sent me a little video on Instagram last night about running errands, and actually said, like, I don't want to get too far in the weeds here, but you know, all the just anxiety and depression that we have in our world right now. The guy was like, the reason so many people are anxious and depressed is because we're all so in touch with our feelings now, and everybody's talking about it all day long. How you feeling? How you feeling? Are you okay? How are you feeling? Tell me about your feelings. How would you describe your feelings? He goes, the best thing you can do when you're feeling some kind of way, go run errands. Just go do stuff and ignore it, because whatever you ignore dies. So good job, Mike. You're not depressed.
Yeah, but now I've been stuck in my car listening to the discourse on Klay, and I'm depressed again.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
My fault.
So here, I was like, I came in with the call thinking, like, who else are you going to get? Like, you know, the market for a valid second scorer is probably a price higher than we're talking about Klay here. But as you guys were talking about this, I mean, as much as I hate it and as much as I love the man, I think you got to let him go. And then, you know, maybe it's not the prototypical scorer that Klay was or has been, but I mean, shoot, like if Jonathan Kuminga had an entire season of just like everyone behind him and supporting him, I mean, we've seen where that ceiling can go. He was the second scorer for a while, and Pods is playing out of his mind too. And so I just keep going back to the, like, we're not young enough, we're not athletic enough, we need a big. And as much as I want Klay, I think the way you guys are talking about, whether it's 20 or 25 or 30, I think we have to let him go, because otherwise we can't develop the team that I think we can develop.
Well, here's what I don't know, Dibs, how you feel about this. Mike, thanks. For me, there's no way to get to a definitive opinion yet. We should let him walk. You should keep him. We're going to do this for a couple of months without knowing what the other options are. Now, I heard Evan say this earlier, where he's like, that's the linchpin. You got to keep Klay or let him walk, and then that leads to everything else. Then you can decide what else you're going to do. I disagree. I don't think Klay is your first order of business. Your first order of business is finding out what else is available.
Of course.
And if there's something special available, then you're willing to move on from Klay Thompson. If there isn't something special available, then you absolutely want to keep Klay, because
you have no choice at that point.
It's like, I feel like a lot of you are like, get rid of Klay. And it's like, but what if no one else is available? Then you're literally moving on from someone whose skill set is exactly what you need, and you're moving on from him just because of a concept. Like, we'd like to get younger. Well, and if that person doesn't exist out there, then you're just going to still let Klay walk for no good reason.
Well, it's also for a contract as well as it is a concept. So if none of these special things come to pass and you wind up in the end of June and early July and you don't have any other option, and Klay is going to get 28 or 30 from someone else, well, then you can't do that. You got to move off him.
I guess, but again, this is going to be likely going to be a 2-year deal. Therefore, it can't be an albatross contract. You would play next year, become an expiring deal. No big deal. It's something that you can move out of if it comes to that down the road. just doesn't bother me that much how much you pay the guy. It's a matter of what else is available. And if something else is available and Klay's presence would prevent that, okay. But if that's not available, I'm not moving off of him just because I'm annoyed and I don't buy that he's blocking Jonathan Kuminga. Like, that's going to, until we get those answers, I will simply say, for the moment, I'd rather have Klay on the team than not, but the responsibility's got to go down. The pressure on their shoulders, the ask on a nightly basis has to go down, and Jonathan Kuminga's has got to go up, and that can happen together, I believe.
It can, but if that's all you have, then you're probably going to wind up in the same spot next year that you were this year.
You might, yeah.
And that
might be the best they can do.
Well, if that's the case, then I'd rather move off him knowing that the second year of that deal, which would be next year, is going to put you in more of a tight spot as far as adding players, because it absolutely would.
I don't know that it would.
Steph's contract goes up, and Andrew's still here, and Draymond's goes up, and Klay's still here.
No, Wiggins is not still here.
Well, yeah, because you weren't able to do anything with Wiggins, anything special this offseason.
Oh, that's likely. That's likely. I don't like Wiggins. I believe is very, very likely done, and that may not mean a special acquisition.
But what are you going to get back for him?
I don't know. It might not be great. My point is a special acquisition. I've given you sort of what I think is something
a really impactful player, a guy who can be your number two, but might also be your number one.
But in terms of what the Warriors can offer for that, like, it would be great if they could package Wiggins along with a Moody and a bunch of picks, and that somehow wooed a team to get off of a big time player. That would be wonderful. But that might not be available. If that's not available, I still think Wiggins is getting moved for something that's not sexy. Might just be Andrew for your $22 million guy that you don't like. It might be that. But I do believe that if you just kind of read and listen to what everyone said over the last couple of days, the Warriors would like to trade Andrew Wiggins. I think they think he's the one who's in Kuminga's way, not Klay.
Of course, Klay's not in Kuminga's way at all, I don't think. Even if you look at it in terms of him being the number two scorer, Kuminga can supplant him by getting better. The biggest issue with replacing Klay is what you talked about and what Steve mentioned is you already don't have enough shooting. You've got Steph and Klay and nobody else who can really shoot the three. Andrew shot the next most threes on your team, and Andrew Wiggins is not a great three-point shooter. And Kuminga's three ball is one that you wouldn't want to see very often.
Not ready.
Draymond's great in the first quarter, but that's it. And Pods was good early, and then he became pretty erratic, and Moses Moody can't shoot the three. And don't even get me started about Kevon Looney. And
he can.
Moses is fine.
Moses can shoot the three. If on this team,
he's all right. Well, on this team, he's not a great three-point shooter.
None of them are.
That's the point.
And the problem. Right. Yes, I'm in total agreement. John in the city. Hey, John, you're on with Willard and Dibs. What's up?
Hey, guys. How are you? Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, man.
Hey, this sounds ridiculous, and I know. But how about the Warriors draft or sign as a free agent, Bronny James, then bring in his dad for the league minimum for $1.6 million?
That's what I'm talking about. Let's go.
Sounds wonderful. Is everybody on the same page?
Well, LeBron is. He said money's not the issue if I can play with my son.
Right. I mean, I know he said that. I don't know if that means the minimum. I don't know.
Well, the guy's worth $1 billion.
I know, but we do that to these rich people all the time. You've already got money. You don't need more. We could say the same to Klay Thompson.
Well, true. If I did, and if that happened, I would say so long to Klay, and unfortunately say so long to Draymond, because you don't need Draymond and LeBron. And then you have, you've cleared your salary cap, and, hey, you never know.
How are you going about saying goodbye to Draymond?
You're going to trade him.
Yeah, I mean, again.
Trade him!
So, John, thanks. Fun call, fun idea.
Love it.
Trade him! You got to get a lot of people to agree to a lot of different things.
Draymond, go bye-bye.
Let's trade Draymond. Okay, to who? Are they okay with
Orlando.
it? Or are we just allowed, because we're the Warriors, are we just allowed to be like, so we've traded Draymond Green to you, and you're not allowed to say no. You know what I mean? LeBron's got to agree to this. I would think half the reason, maybe Bronny is most of the reason, but if LeBron, let's play this fantasy land, if LeBron wanted to come to the Warriors for the minimum, you think he wants Draymond gone?
Probably not.
No, he doesn't.
And, I mean, as much as the Warriors would love to have LeBron here, even on that minimum deal, do you really want to have Bronny with him? Because Bronny, and I apologize to Lucas, who is a USC guy.
Fight on.
Bronny's not very good at basketball, and you'd be asking him to come in and play basketball.
You set that up as if it was a controversial statement. It's an obvious one.
I'm just apologizing to the USC member of our show.
Don't apologize to me. He didn't do anything good for us.
He's not ready to be in the NBA.
He'll never be ready to be in the NBA.
He's in the portal now anyway, so.
But also
trails USC.
He's not as good as his little brother, who is a junior in high school.
Right. But
who's worried about the prom now.
But does that matter to LeBron? Nor would it matter to an NBA team. Will you stick Bronny on your bench to have LeBron? Of course you would. Of course you would.
Much like Thanasis. He's a Bucks, right?
Yeah.
Is he not?
Yes, he is.
Missed a dunk a couple weeks ago. Thanasis with one of the worst dunks of the year. I don't know if you saw that clip.
I mean.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. Sure. You draft you for a non-guarantee in the second round and put you on the bench and play next to your dad. Let's do it. Why not?
Boy.
But
Ronnie, get me my baby powder.
That sounds like complete fantasy land. But it will be interesting to see if LeBron is more sort of like, I don't want to just say true to his word. I don't know exactly what he has said, but he has intimated a number of times that that's his priority. Is there a way to make it happen? Would the Warriors be the only one interested? Doubtful. If the Lakers get swept by the Nuggets, is it time to give up and move on? I don't know. I got no idea the way that one's going to play out.
Right.
That one's at a big fork in the road. So, fun idea though.
Yeah. Always a fun idea. As fun as the Milwaukee Flames out and the Warriors get Giannis idea.
I actually think
equally whimsical.
I think the LeBron one is a touch more likely.
For sure.
Than the Giannis one.
For sure.
Yeah. But I hear